My name's Timmy Gleason. I'm a rescue team manager with Florida Task Force 2, and today I'll be talking to you about the Petrogen torch. During today's presentation, we will be talking about the assembly of the torch, startup and operations of the Petrogen torch, cleaning and storage of the Petrogen torch, and lastly, program directives and hazardous incidents that have happened nationwide throughout the different task forces. It is important to note, not only with your proper PPE, you should also have the ability to do some fire suppression. Usually a 2.5 gallon pressurized water extinguisher does suffice. Also, depending on where you're doing your cutting, respiratory protection as well as air sampling, monitoring and ventilation should also take place. In front of us, you will see some tools and equipment set up on this table. These tools are the tools that are most commonly found in our Petrogen kits. Starting from right to left, we will start with our PPE. Two types of jackets, Nomex, which is the green, or cutting leathers, which provide an extra step of protection. We also have heavy-duty welder's gloves, and we have a couple different types of eye protection here. We have our welding helmet all the way down to just some cutting glasses. Whenever using these glasses, a number 5 shade is what's advisable. In this middle section, you'll see we have some simple hand tools and some replacement parts. These are the most common parts that are found in the field replacement kit. Lastly, we have the contents of the container and all its parts that make up the torch. Once we determine the size of steel that needs to be cut, the next thing we need to do is properly fit our tip. We have a tip guide that is in every kit that is usually laminated. Also, the same kit is stamped on the side of the gasoline container. Now we will discuss the assembly of the Petrogen torch. The way the torch sits now is how it can be found in your kits within your task force. Petrogen offers a wide range of fuel types that we are allowed to use with their torch setup. The reason why we are choosing to use the Coleman camp fuel is it is a cleaner burning fuel and has less amount of additives than what you find in normal gasoline.
Depending on your specific fuel type, you will have to consider the multi-fuel adapter along with a high heat series tip.
The first thing we will be doing is filling our container. The Petrogen containers, depending on which one you have, the large one holds 2.5 gallons of fuel, the smaller one holds 1 gallon. With a simple funnel, you can fill up your tank. However, we don't fill up more than about 2 gallons to allow vapor space and pressurization. Once you've filled your container with fuel, the next step is to attach your fuel line. It's important to note the cut that is in the coupling of the red hose. This indicates that it is a fuel line and it is reverse thread. Once your fuel line is connected, you will then connect the hose to the wand. This hose has a quick coupling feature that you can purchase through Petrogen. Find the fuel side of the wand, connect, make sure it's tight. Next, we will be attaching the oxygen regulator to the oxygen source. First thing we need to do is whenever we're putting an oxygen bottle into service on an emergency scene, we need to make sure that it has a hand wheel at the top. Not the kind that's opened with a pair of pliers or a wrench. We need one that's actually able to open and close with a hand. So a standard hand wheel applies. We're going to make sure we crack the bottle. Next, we see how much oxygen we have in our bottle. You will then be attaching the oxygen hose line to the wand itself. You need to make sure that your ball and groove on the quick coupler is in a line. Pull it back fully, exposing all of the bearings. And then we slowly start to increase the pressure on our regulator. Our tip chart says if we're using an 81 tip, that we're going to run anywhere between 17 and 25. For today's operation, we're going to run our oxygen regulator at 25 psi. You will then pump your fuel canister. You are not to go above 20 psi and never let the tank go down below 10 psi. Crack your fuel line valve. If you crack this valve quickly, the check ball that is inside will seat and it will not allow any fuel to flow through the hose. If this happens, simply pick up your can and lightly tap it on a hard surface to reseat that ball to its operating position. Your wand is now ready for operation. last thing that we're going to do is disassembly and maintenance. Making sure that all the fuel system has been shut down. The next thing that we're going to do is shut down our oxygen and depressurize the regulator. It's simple shutting down of the hand wheel. We go ahead and bleed off the excess oxygen that's in the system from the torch, registering 0. Last thing that we're going to do is depressurize the regulator and also make sure there's no excess oxygen left in the system. Once we've secured the oxygen regulator and made sure there was no oxygen left running to the system, the next thing that we're going to do is slowly release the pressure from the canister by removing the lid. The next thing that we're going to do is to disassemble the fuel line from the tank. The last thing that we're going to do before we put a torch away for storage is to clean the tips. First thing I'm going to do is remove the tip from the torch. It will come apart into 3 pieces: the locking nut, the outer sheath of the tip, and the inner core of the tip. Find the appropriate file on our tip cleaners that will allow us to access each groove of the tip. Then we will systematically insert the file into each groove and clean the contents out of every groove. A brief overview of what we've covered today. First, we covered proper PPE. Second, we've covered proper assembly of the Petrogen torch, setup and starting of the Petrogen torch, breakdown and maintenance. And lastly, we remind you to please review the attached documents for program directives regarding proper storage and transport of the torch. My name is Timmy Gleason, and on behalf of Florida Task Force 2, I thank you.